Action.
When you think of the scope of Sir Ben Kingsley's film career, from Gandhi to Schindler's List through Hugo, you realize why he occupies his own niche of superstardom. He has redefined the term character actor because he himself is such a great character.
You've got a bit of talent.
Sir Ben, Hugo is not just a movie, but it's a movie about the history of movies. Did you launch into a lot of research about your character and the role he played early on?
I was helped by Martin Scorsese. He found Méliès' films, about 90 of them, that had been restored even by the 1990s. Now I think that there are about 500 of them that have been successfully restored, which is miraculous. He came from the magic stage. He was a magician before he was a filmmaker. Therefore, he appreciated how much audiences love to be surprised, love to be perhaps a little bit frightened, then to have it made all right by the completion of a magic trick. These films are works of magic. And because he worked so closely with a live audience for a lot of his creative life as a magician on stage, and continued to do his magic acts once he left the film studio, he'd go on stage and do his whole magic act. So he never lost touch with what genuinely entertains and thrills an audience. I decided to watch his films and realized that he was in a state of joy whilst he was creating his films, and allow myself to fully grasp that state in order to play the deficit of having all that taken away from him. He is discovered in his toy shop. But he was so successful in exiling himself away from the pain of not being able to create or direct or make movies anymore that people thought that he had literally disappeared.
Knowing the way you approach a character, I couldn't help thinking that when I read about your start as a singer, that had you gone down that road as a rock and roller, you would have created a whole different persona for yourself.
I would not have been here. I wouldn't be sitting here. I might not be alive. I think, honestly, seriously, and I'm not doing the music industry a disservice, but when I would have become a rock and roll singer, I think drugs were almost mandatory. You had to participate, it was peer pressure, and you had to participate in that lifestyle. I knew myself well enough, or some secret Geiger counter inside me knew itself well enough to say, don't go down that road because they'll find you in 3 months in a hotel bedroom. Go down that road and you'll be in a rehearsal room trying to decipher Shakespeare. And I went down the classical theatre route.
The agent got a telegram and it just said he is coming and gave the time of the train. Who the hell is he? I don't know, sir.
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Well, whoever you are, we don't want you here. I suggest you get back on that train before it leaves.
They seem to want me.
In studying for this, I read that Dustin Hoffman wanted to play Gandhi. Is that true, or is that one of these arcane bits of research that's nonsense?
No, I believe it's true.
Really?
Yeah. Dickie was very brave and very loyal. And I know that when other actors were mentioned, he said to the producers in his own extraordinary way, wonderful idea, but you're going to have to get another director. And he stuck it out, and he stuck it out, and he stuck it out. Right in the middle of this colossal adventure and investment was a man unknown to cinema audiences. I was only known to a limited number of people in the United Kingdom as a Shakespearean actor. And Dickie held fast because he knew of my Shakespeare work. His son had seen my performance as Hamlet for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he came to see a play I was into, Dickie, And when he got the money and he got the green light, he chose me, and thank God he did.
I believe non-cooperation with evil is a duty, and that British rule of India is evil. I want to document coldly, rationally, what is being done here. If we obtain our freedom by murder and bloodshed, I want no part of it.
I feel a certain empathy for those actors today who do the superhero pictures, and they stand on a naked stage, green screen stuff, and the director is hiding a long way away behind his monitor.
Very difficult.
Tough acting.
Very, very difficult indeed. My experience with Attenborough involved Dickie being just there behind the camera and no CGI. When they had 370,000 people on the screen, they had 370,000 people in New Delhi for the funeral of Gandhi. When they wanted 100,000 people for the Salt March, those guys turned up. That no single human being in that film is CGI'd.
I've been talking to Gert.
I know the destination. These are the evacuation orders. I'm to help organize the shipment and put myself on the last train.
That's not what I was going to say. I made Gert promise me he'll put in a good word for you. Nothing bad's going to happen to you there. You'll receive special treatment.
The directives coming in from Berlin mention special treatment more and more often. I'd like to think that's not what you mean.
Preferential treatment, all right? Do we have to invent a whole new language?
I think so.
Along with Gandhi, of course, Schindler's List. Just an extraordinary movie in terms of just holding up. It's timeless, isn't it?
I think it's timeless because its motives are pure. I think Spielberg, given his heritage and his genius, was determined to memorialize the Holocaust within a work of art. An extremely daunting task to make accessible to an audience the absolutely incomprehensible. And I think by focusing on a small group of people, and finally on two men in an office, one of them typing and one of them dictating, is a remarkable achievement. And when for Stephen, we were talking about vulnerability, I, in Krakow, Poland, wearing a yellow star, made myself utterly, utterly vulnerable to that wonderful man. And by the time I got to the words, the list is an absolute good, the list is life, all around its margins lies the gulf. And Stephen said, cut. I thanked the gods that I was the actor who said those lines.
Yeah.
I could have got more.
Oscar, there are 1,100 people who are alive because of you. Look at them.
If I'd made more money. I threw away so much money. You have no idea. If I just...
There will be generations because of what you did.
I didn't do enough.
You did so much.
Looking back, you've played so many different nationalities. Do you like playing an American, for example, as in Bugsy?
I had a great voice coach, and I also did a little bit of research into Meyer and gathered that he came to America from Russia. A Russian Jew brought up in the shtetls of Russia, very persecuted race. So my key into Meyer Lansky was not that he was a gangster, but first and foremost that he was a Jewish patriarch.
Would you stop with the no problems? Think for a second. What are you going to do to get the money? All your property, your house in Scarsdale, the cars, the stocks, the bonds, all belong to Esther and the girls now. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Then how are you going to get $2 million?
I'll sell things.
What things?
I'll sell my house. I'll sell everything in my house.
Sounds to me like about 200,000 tops. Where's the other $1.8 million coming from? You always protected me, Benny. When we were kids, you were always behind me. But I can't protect you.
When you're playing a quote-unquote baddie, what you look for is why, not how they do what they do, but why they do what they do. And for Meyer Lansky to transplant that brilliant survival that his family must have acquired in order to live in Russia, to transpose that into America and think, I have got to look after myself. I've got to bribe people, I've got to fence my people in, I've got to cut myself off, even outside the legal system. Survival, survival, survival. Right. And that gave me the ballast, the understory of Meyer Lansky.
Okay. I'm not excusing it, I'm explaining it. I'm a businessman. As far as I'm concerned, anything that broad took, Benny's got to make good on. It's his responsibility.
Well, what do you want to do about it, Meyer? As a businessman?
Give him till Christmas when the hotel opens, see if it works. If it does, we'll all be happy. Let him pay off our debt.
And what if the Flamingo goes bust?
Then I'll handle it myself.
Do you ever, when you read about the great character of history, fixate on someone who you say, I wish I could play that role, or there's someone who should have done a film about him?
Yes, there are people who are obsessive and compulsive or perfectionists or driven by something, who were capable of extraordinary gestures, and I would like to inhabit their silhouette, yes.
One weakness of so-called biopics, film biographies, is that too many films, as in Chaplin, the director endeavors, again Attenborough, to cover the whole span of his life, instead of fixating on one or two great moments.
It's the flaws in the character, particularly in historical characters, that will make them so fascinating to an audience. It is of no interest to an audience to present them with an utterly flawless portrait of somebody, because it won't be true.
Yeah.
You have to show flaws and all. I think that's where Attenborough triumphed with Gandhi, because he, in the script, presented a man who was not a saint, but a real man of flesh and blood, who was capable of indignation, impatience, anger, frustration, had self-destructive tendencies, almost committed suicide twice, starving himself to death, and he would have done. Right. So I think it's that examination of the flaws and the cracks in any character, whether they're from fact or fiction, that make the character compelling.
What's more, you read the book again, in 10 years it'll change again because you've changed. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I've always been vulnerable to female beauty. Miss Castillo was different. Her posture was perfect, and she dressed like a young associate of a prestigious law firm. There was a sophistication that set her apart.
She knows she's beautiful, but she's not yet sure what to do with her beauty.
No, don't take notes, because honestly, it's not worth it. It really, don't give it a thought.
Well, I remember in one of our previous conversations, you said, I don't really ever want to be a director. One reason being that I've had the privilege of working for so many great directors, whether it's Mike Nichols or Dickie Attenborough or Spielberg. You have gone through an amazing group of careers there. And you still hold to that, though, but directing is something you personally don't want to undertake.
At the moment, I'm trying to produce my own projects in which I will play a leading role. But directing, it's not something that I feel I can step into with any ease or comfort. It's terrifying. It's overwhelmingly difficult and a huge responsibility. And as I say, I've worked with so many great directors, it's intimidating to feel that I could ever do what they do, because I don't think I could. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe in down the line, I might surround myself with some really strong people and a great DOP, a great editor, and pretend it's me.
Well,
but it won't be. It'll be them.
Indeed. The problem I always felt with directing is that it's exciting to prepare and make a film, but all that time in post-production where you have to basically remake your film, I mean, that's an incredible investment in time for someone who is a great actor.
It's an enormous investment, and I think, honestly, that if it became absolutely inevitable that I had to direct that picture, otherwise it would not happen, then I think I might have to shoulder that burden and get myself into pre-production, production, and post-production.
And there goes 18 months of your life, and you hear it from your agent who says, you can't do that, Sir Ben. Don't spend all that time on one movie.
Unless it's a colossal hit, then they'll say, I told you so.
Now, you've had such a busy career. Do you like moving from one picture to the next with a certain pace? Or...
My accountant likes that very much.
I see. I'm sure
but I happen to as well, yes.
Have you finished another picture after Hugo?
Yes, I finished a picture with Sacha Baron Cohen, my dear friend.
Yes.
And it's called The Dictator, and he plays somebody based upon all the crazy despots that are being got rid of as we speak. And he's presented somebody on the screen who's outrageously despotic and tyrannical, and I'm in it with him.
You are, I see. Yes. You're not the despot.
I'm the straight man, thank God. Don't try and be funny around Sacha Baron Cohen. It's a lost cause.
WTF? What the Admiral General, welcome to New York City. And while you're here, I highly recommend a visit to the Empire State Building before you or one of your cousins takes it down.
Young, 2, you, 1, 2, 3.
So every filmmaker has his distinct idiosyncrasies. And I know most of these characters personally. Roman Polanski, for example, working with him is an experience.
He chuckles.
He does?
Yes, yes. Yes, he's got this wonderful chuckle. And you know that you've hit something deep inside him that's resonated with him. And that immediate comeback, that immediate rapport, I find very necessary.
These are all violent offenders, right? They've hurt people, murdered them in some cases.
In almost all cases, yes. We try to provide them with a measure of calm.
Personally, Doctor, I'd have to say screw their sense of calm.
I spent 15 years on stage. You have an immediate rapport with your audience. You know where you are, because they tell you.
Yes.
When the director says cut, it's quite necessary to have some kind of feedback, whether it's the chuckle. With Marty, it's a huge laugh. With Spielberg, it's a deep twinkle in his eyes. With Attenborough, it's darling, darling, darling. But it is that ability not to hold back. If you feel that the director isn't really with you, you're going to pull back on your vulnerability, you're going to pull back on your performance, and the better the rapport with the director, the more you can give to the camera.
Fix it. I know you've been stealing parts from the shop. Might as well use those you haven't stolen yet.
You've got a bit of talent.
So Martin Scorsese, I mean, these are his favorite toys. I mean, he loves film and is almost a pedant of moviedom, really, more than any other director. So it must have been kind of fun to work with him at what must be a sort of a high point of his life.
It was, in a sense, biographical, in that I knew that the disintegration of all of Méliès' work and then the rediscovery of it was and is a passion of Marty's. He's rescued so many filmmakers from oblivion and repopularized them. The Red Shoes he restored beautifully. And he despairs at lost footage. So that Georges' loss to him was, as portrayed in the film, was catastrophic. And therefore, with Marty's enthusiasm and appreciation of how great that loss was, I was able to fully share and appreciate that loss myself, which again informed the joy of creating the films in the glass palace and the exile from the palace into the toy shop, the dark side as well.
My life has taught me happy endings only happen in the movies.
The story's not over yet.
Well, it's a joy to talk to you, and I'm pleased that you are playing the man who invented film, because you've invented so many great performances in film. So thank you.
My thanks to you. Thank you.